Hi, this is Pat Johnson, your psychology instructor. This is Psych 150, and today we're going to talk about brain plasticity. Brain plasticity is probably one of my favorite topics to discuss because it shows just what a miraculous organ the brain is, and it shows how the brain is not just stagnant in staying the same way all the time, but it has the ability to change, to reorganize itself based on the demands placed on it. And so there's a lot of really interesting case studies out there showing brain plasticity after brain damage and just in normal everyday activities where people have placed great demands on their bodies and their brains, and showing how the brain reorganizes itself. So let's take a look at our definition. Brain plasticity is the brain's ability to change. So again, the brain doesn't stay the same. It has the ability to change, to grow new synapses, more dendrites, to make more neural connections in the brain. And this happens especially during childhood. So it's easier for kids to have brain plasticity than older people. And the brain does this by reorganizing after damage or building new pathways based on experience. So we're going to look at both brain plasticity based on brain damage and brain plasticity based on experience. One of the more recent examples of brain plasticity out there is the horrendous brain injury that Gabby Giffords, the congresswoman from Arizona, experienced a few years ago when she was shot at point blank range into the head. And she lived, but after her brain injury, she had lost a lot of function in the language areas and in movement of the right side of her body. So she was shot in the in the left hemisphere. Left hemisphere controls the right side of the body, and the left hemisphere controls language. So the bullet went through and damaged areas. And what we have seen, and you can take a look at YouTube's on Gabby Giffords, is that through the miracle of brain plasticity, she has recovered the ability to speak, although she still has some lingering speech problems, but she is walking, she is talking, she has regained much of the capacities that she lost after that horrendous brain injury. There's another really cool example. A little girl by the name of Jody Miller had Rasmussen's encephalitis, and it's a specific type of epilepsy where the only treatment for it is to remove a whole cerebral hemisphere. So the whole right side of her brain was taken out, was removed, and within days she was able to walk, she was able to respond. She did have some lingering problems in movement in the opposite side of her body, but Jody Miller shows just how phenomenal brain plasticity is, especially in young children. So let's take a look at brain plasticity after damage. If there is damage, let's go here. If there is damage to one brain hemisphere, and we could say, let's say a person has a stroke here, and or has a blow to the brain here, and there is damage here, the opposite side of the brain, the other cerebral hemisphere, will start taking on those functions. And you may have noticed this if you have a relative who has experienced a stroke, that right after the stroke they are frustrated, they have lost a lot of their ability, but as time goes on, they are able to regain some of that ability. Now, in older adults, this is a slower and less complete process than we see in young children. And you are more likely to see brain damage from stroke in older adults. But there is still plasticity there. It's just not as complete. It's not as rapid as we would see in a child. The really cool thing, though, is that we don't have to have brain damage to see brain plasticity. We can also see it in all the rest of us who have our brains change just based on the demands that we place on them every single day. So here's the motor cortex. If you remember, the motor cortex is in the frontal lobe, and the motor cortex controls voluntary motor movement. So let's say you're a gamer and you use your thumbs and your fingers a lot. Your brain, your motor cortex, is going to grab adjacent areas and say, we need to dedicate more space on the motor cortex to fingers and thumbs, so that you can do this even more precisely. If you are a speaker, if you use your voice a lot, the brain is going to dedicate more space on the motor cortex to that. If you are a skateboarder, you might notice when you first start a new skill that you're not doing very well. It's really hard, but through the miracle of brain plasticity, as the brain adapts based on experience, more synapses are made, more adjacent areas of the motor cortex are grabbed and dedicated to those body parts that are really being tested and pushed in that new skill, and so the skill gets easier and easier, and you get better and better at it. So that's the miracle of brain plasticity. It's a fascinating area of brain science, and you can take a look at other information on it.